for the beauty of this world, and for the wonder of life, and for the love of wisdom. We thank you for the blessings of family and friends, teachers and classmates, for the loving care which surrounds us on every side. We thank you for setting us at task, which demand our best efforts, and for leading us to accomplishments which satisfy and delight us. We thank you for those disappointments and failures that lead us to acknowledge our dependence on you alone. Above all, we thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, for the truth of his word and the example of his life, for the steadfast obedience by which he overcame temptation, for his dying through which he overcame death, and for his rising to life again, in which we are raised to the life of your kingdom. Grant us the gift of your Spirit, that we may know him and make him known, and through him, at all times and in all places, may give thanks to you in all things. Amen. Please be seated.
Welcome to the 2019 Highlands Latin School commencement. Today, we honor 21 students by recognizing them for their singular achievement, the completion of their studies at Highlands Latin School. These students have given as much or more to HLS as HLS has given to them. As we consider their time at HLS, it is important to note that this group of students is a group that the faculty were eager to teach. These students are dedicated and talented. That combination proves joyous for teachers who want nothing more than to teach students who are engaged and desirous to learn. So they are talented academically, but there is much more to them. In this year's class of seniors, there are vocal leaders and willing participants in many HLS-related activities. Some students have been stellar on stage or behind the scenes in the drama troupe. Some of them even played on the baseball team for the first time this year. There are pianists, excellent artists, national merit scholars, great volleyball and basketball players, and many students who have talents that are not known to me. It would take another 4 years for me to discover all of the talent that exists in this group, but I don't believe that they will sign up for that. As an administrator, it is difficult to see these students move on because of the culture they helped to establish at HLS. They acquitted themselves well in so many areas, making the most of every opportunity. It is too bad that a university cannot accept all of them. Universities don't know what they are missing. Nonetheless, many universities recognize the value that each of these graduates bring. In all, these graduates account for 67 acceptances to universities all over the nation. Half of these students will attend a university close to home, and the other half will attend universities elsewhere in the country. Next year's seniors have big shoes to fill. I am honored and excited to introduce the graduate who will deliver this year's senior speech. She gives her best effort in everything, and it is not uncommon for teachers and coaches to notice her, exhausted but pressing on. Her hard work always resulted in a stellar performance. And when I heard that she was one of the seniors who offered to write a speech, I knew that she would write one of the best ones. Faith Thibodeau's character is marked by honesty, class, and integrity. At this time, I ask that she come forward. Please welcome Faith Thibodeau.
Have you ever noticed how airports seem to be one of the most fast-moving, unfriendly places on Earth? Never-ending streams of people rush to and fro, sprinting down the hallways to catch their flights, and rolling their eyes at how long TSA takes. Time-consuming layovers breed unbearable impatience, and one flight delay is simply disaster waiting to happen. Passengers obsess over their next destination, oblivious to everything else in front of them. Generally speaking, we live in a very fast-paced, future-focused environment. We're always looking to the next big thing, that next event or change in our lives. As seniors, we're especially guilty of neglecting the present moment for future dreams. College, career, adult life, starting a family, These thoughts are always running through my mind, and I know I am not alone. How many times have you overheard seniors grumble, "I'm so ready to graduate," or other students exclaim, "I can't wait for summer"? We want the next chapter of our lives before the last has even been written. So much escapes our notice as we continually look ahead. The fresh outdoor air after a summer rain, jokes we laugh at until tears roll down our face, precious moments with close friends and family. As we long to discover what our future holds, we make the mistake of disregarding our present. Dissatisfaction and jealousy replace contentment and gratitude in a sickly cycle to which we frequently succumb. At the St. Louis Zoo on our senior trip, I enviously watched families with small children, suddenly desiring a family of my own. "I can't wait to be a mom. I really hope I have kids one day," I expressed to my friends nearby. My head was up in the clouds, fantasizing about my future family and the life I desired to have years down the road. One simple response by my dear friend Haley, however, brought me back down to earth. "Don't wish away your youth," she remarked. "Enjoy the time you have." In other words, stop being so focused on what's next that you forget what you have now. Cherishing the present allows us to grow in appreciation for what we have already been given. We can soak in each moment to its fullest extent, grateful for our experiences. Standing before you today, looking back on my HLS career, I realize how much I have to be grateful for. My classmates, sitting beside me, all unique in their own way, yet dear to me all the same. William and his puns, Bobby and Michael's ridiculous feats, Rachel's loving servant heart, and each and every one of you. Our teachers, for inspiring us a love for learning and being our mentors to whom we trust and admire. For putting up with our incessant questions and continually exercising patience, even when I was convinced they might collapse in utter defeat. I'm sorry, Mr. Yankee. Mrs. Lowe, for sharing her love for classical education for the benefit of students such as ourselves. For showing us the perfect example of perseverance and humility. Our friends and family for supporting us always, even in our struggles. And most importantly, the Lord, who orchestrates everything according to his will, standing by us in our deepest defeat. I am so thankful for HLS and everything it has given me. I only wish to have spent more time enjoying what I had, rather than waiting for the future while the present slipped by. My fellow seniors, we have made it to this day at last. No more waiting for this new chapter of our lives. However, let us experience this moment and appreciate it for what it is, rather than using it as a mere stepping stone to the future. This is the last time we will all be sitting up here together as a class. Soon we will be handed our diplomas and declared graduates. Let us value these last few moments together, reflecting on shared memories and appreciating the community we have created over the past years. We're a family, dysfunctional maybe, but still a family. And I love you all so much. And to my younger students behind me, cherish the moments you have before they're gone. One day you will be standing up here just like us, wishing you had more time to spare. I promise you, it will come faster than expected. Don't wish away your youth. Enjoy the time you have. For then you will find much more joy and contentment in your present circumstances, filling you with gratitude. Thank you.
Now I'd like to take a little time to introduce all the graduates. Ryan Allen Apperson. Started at Highlands Latin School in the 8th grade. Ryan is one of the few graduates here today that did not start at HLS while he was in the primary or grammar school. Starting at HLS in the upper school requires confidence. Confidence in oneself and a willingness to acclimate to a very different educational environment. In the 5 short years I've known Ryan, I can attest that he is not short on confidence. Ryan has always been very self-assured, comfortable in his beliefs and his abilities. Ryan loves to debate, he likes to argue, he likes to inquire. A teacher wrote in his report card, "It's great to have a student as genuinely inquisitive as Ryan." But you also need to be cautious around Ryan from time to time. His questions and his inquiries are often playful attempts to question your beliefs or your ideas. For example, riding to the bus on the boys' retreat last year, Mr. Long and I were sitting together and were being questioned. Various philosophical dilemmas posed our direction from Ryan. Ryan smiled as he cleverly held the advantage, and I cautiously warned Mr. Long to be careful. We have a 2-hour ride with Ryan. Ryan's confidence does not just reside in his studies, however. Ryan, in the 10th grade, auditioned to be a part in our first HLS drama production, Little Women, and that truly shocked me. Ryan Apperson wanted to be in a stage production on the stage. Ryan surprised me again by auditioning for the musicals. Ryan has a wonderful singing voice and has been part of the singing quartets in Music Man and My Fair Lady. Ryan is a very talented stage actor. The things Ryan cares to do, he does extremely well. And Ryan may have you believe he cares about only a few things. But I have seen Ryan care about a lot of things at HLS over the years. Ryan has a big heart, and sometimes he doesn't like to show it. Next year, Ryan will attend High Point University in North Carolina. Ryan plans to major in philosophy or history. I'd like to thank the Apperson family for entrusting us with Ryan's education over the last 5 years and for your loyal support. Thank you, Ryan, for 5 great years at HLS. Grace Holbrook Burnett started at Highlands Latin School in kindergarten. And I'm going to admit something now that I know that Grace and Kate have known for the past 13 years, but are far too nice and polite to point it out to me. But I still have a terrible time telling the two of them apart. As a matter of fact, Kate could have just stood up and I might not have even known it. But Grace Burnett is well known as an HLS top scholar. Her physics teacher coined it perfectly, saying that grace makes excellence seem effortless. Grace is one of the best scholars that have ever attended HLS. She's a National Merit Commended Scholar. Her flawless academic record has become routine to everyone that knows her. Grace simply knows no other standard than excellence, and she extends it to everything that she does. So it should come as no surprise that when Grace came out to that first HLS soccer practice held at Seneca Park 6 or 7 years ago, and Grace had not played a lot of organized soccer, I was thrilled to have both Grace and Kate come out on the team. I was also ecstatic that they wore different colored cleats so I could tell them apart. But what really caught me off guard was how quickly Grace improved, how quickly she listened. I did not expect new players to help much at the varsity level, but within 2 weeks, Grace was out working, outperforming, outplaying kids who had been playing for much longer. I'd never seen anything like that. Grace has also served this year as a house tenant for the House of Andrew, taking on the main task of organizing and filming that house movie project this year. That was a huge undertaking, considering all of Grace's other commitments, and she did a fabulous job. Aside from Grace being nearly perfect in everything that she does, she never puts on airs, she's very humble, she's quiet, she's unassuming.
She looks around for the person who's not included. She cares for others. She intentionally downplays any extensive accomplishments or accolades that are thrown her way. Next year, Grace will attend DePaul University in Chicago, where she plans to major in animation. Grace is a phenomenal scholar, a terrific athlete, and an exquisite artist. Thank you, Grace, for 13 great years at HLS. Catherine Marie Burnett started at Highlands Latin School in kindergarten. Last summer, Kate applied and was appointed to the top leadership position for the House of George. What stood out in Kate's application was that she admitted to being afraid of failure. Kate, like her sister, excels in everything she does, but hearing Kate speak of her fear of failure was a moving speech. In Kate's application, it was apparent that her personal high standard for excellence does not come without a price. Kate debated if it was even worth being a leader, if the stress and the pressure that comes with leading was something she was up to in this her senior year. But Kate wrote in her application, "If I choose not to apply just because I think the role will be hard or I may fail, that would be utterly selfish. I would be choosing personal comfort over service to others." Serving her classmates in her school is why Kate decided to apply, and it's why Kate was appointed the head of house this year. Kate is one of the 5 HLS seniors to be recognized by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation, but the only HLS senior to be named the National Merit Finalist. Her academic record is simply above reproach. Like her sister, Kate, too, is extremely humble, virtually apologetic regarding any accomplishments or accolades thrown her way, except a friendly rivalry that seems to only exist between Kate and Grace. Dr. Dickey told me of a story last year about how after passing back a particularly challenging AP Latin exam, he noticed how Grace ever so slightly turned her exam so that Kate could see that she got a 96% A on this tough test. Kate then discreetly revealed that she got 100% on her test. Kate Burnett will also attend DePaul University in Chicago this fall. She plans to study computer science. Thank you, Kate, for 13 great years at HLS. I'd also like to thank the Burnett family for entrusting us with both Grace and Kate. When Miss Burnett called me a few years ago saying that they would be moving to Chicago or Baltimore, I acted calm. I was helpful, but inside I was praying that they would not leave. So thank you for staying. Robert Murphy Williamson Fowler. We just call him Bobby. He's attended HLS since the 6th grade. Bobby did not begin the senior year until after Christmas break. He spent the first half of the senior year on a ship sailing around the world, while his parents served as college professors aboard this ship. It was a wonderful experience and a great opportunity for Bobby. Bobby's such a laid-back, easygoing guy that when he returned to school in January, he was not even the least bit surprised to see me teaching his 8 a.m. statistics course instead of Dr. Bandara. I believe his exact words were close to something like, "Hey, Mr. Wheatley, you're teaching stats? What did I miss?" The truth of the matter is that Bobby missed 4 months of school. But within 1 day or 2, it felt like Bobby had been here all along. Having Bobby back in the HLS classroom made HLS a better school. Bobby has a gift of making himself part of any group. He's extremely skilled at making people around him comfortable, making people laugh, making people feel included in the group. This year, I have heard Bobby talk, laugh, and engage more with all people in his class and younger grades than I've ever heard him in the previous 7 years. Mrs. Booker said at the girls' retreat, a special discussion amongst the girls centered around Bobby Fowler. At first, this really concerned me. I didn't know if Bobby was being mean or if he'd created some sort of controversy, but it just seems that people like to talk about Bobby Fowler. And like all Fowler children, Bobby is also an outstanding baseball player. Bobby has played virtually every position on the HLS baseball team. Bobby has played at the varsity level since he was in the 6th grade. Bobby is hoping to be a 4-time defending state baseball champion with his teammates coming up very soon, and Bobby played a significant role on the previous 3 state titles. Next year, Bobby plans to take a year off school to work on his strength and baseball skills. Bobby has a real chance at playing Division I baseball someday, and he's going to be working on that next year. Bobby, thank you for coming back to school. Thank you for being such a positive influence on HLS over the past 7 years. Congratulations, Bobby. Danielle Jeanette Fuller. Danielle is often a bundle of enthusiasm and energy. Danielle always greets you with a smile and a kind words. Even on the days when she may not be at her full strength and vigor, she perks up and says, "Good morning, how are you?" and flashes that smile. Danielle is very assertive. She's not afraid to take charge. Danielle can be quite tough and resilient when she has to be. I've always loved and appreciated Danielle's tenacity. A couple of years ago, or maybe last year, I sat in on an American Heritage Girls interview of Danielle for her Stars and Stripes badge. This prestigious honor can only be likened to that of an Eagle Scout with the Boy Scouts. In this interview, I was simply blown away. I was very proud of Danielle's poise, her clarity, and her commitment to Christ and service. I have interviewed hundreds of people over the years, and Danielle can hold her own in any interview, even as a high schooler. As part of our Stars and Stripes project, Danielle designed and created a prayer garden at Spring Meadows in honor of our founder, Ms. Cheryl Lowe. Danielle worked with Mr. Lowe to have the area cleared. She contacted contractors, landscapers, artists, and organized a student workforce to see the project completed almost instantaneously. It was truly remarkable. I not so jokingly told Mr. Lowe that he should put Danielle in charge of all building construction at Spring Meadows, and he agreed. Danielle has also gracefully performed in the HLS drama troupe over the past 3 years, from her debut comedic performance in Little Women to the starring role as Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady. Danielle has sang and danced in front of thousands of HLS audience members over the years. The success of our HLS drama troupe has been in large part to Danielle's commitment to it. This year, Danielle was selected to serve the House of Andrew as the head of house, the house that won the championship this year. And as the leader of that house, as you would expect, Danielle brought a sense of energy and excitement to all the meetings and all functions. Next year, Danielle will attend Baylor University in Waco, Texas, where she received a University Scholar Award that will allow her to major in classics with a concentration on political science and rhetoric. Thank you, Danielle, for 13 great years at HLS. Laura Rose Giltner started at HLS in the 4th grade. Now, every senior class seems to have a student who either goes with the flow or someone who just tells it as it is. Laura Rose Giltner is sort of both of these people. She never gets rattled or outraged when things don't go the way they should. The screams of injustice or foul play that can typically come from a high school group and the drama that's associated with it never seems to quite infiltrate the psyche of Laura Rose. A lot of times she just stays calm. But when she speaks, it's blunt. It's to the point. She's wonderfully undeterred by a popular opinion. Laura Rose will tell you in no uncertain terms what she believes, and she will also offer, oftentimes, a very rational solution to almost every problem. I've come to really appreciate and enjoy Laura Rose's quick wit, but especially her sarcasm over the years. You have to be on your toes around Laura Rose because while she's mostly quiet, she's always watching, she's always observing. Laura Rose is also a great student. If you ask her what her least favorite subject is, she might tell you it's Latin. I don't know. Now, Laura Rose has taken Latin every year since the 4th grade, but she's yet to cut the subject a lot of slack. And as a matter of fact, at the Halloween costume dance, she wore the word nescio written on a white T-shirt. The word means I don't know in Latin. Laura Rose, I don't know if she was telling us that she did not know what a costume was or if she was making some statement regarding the study of Latin in general. You never know around Laura Rose, but she is very, very clever. While Laura Rose is a good and quick-witted student, she's also very involved in giving back to the community in service. She's also an AHG Presidential Service Award winner, which allowed her to receive a letter from President Obama for her countless hours of community and volunteer work. And I can attest that if there is anything that you need to get done quickly, Laura Rose is always the first to jump in and offer a hand. No excuses asked. Next year, Laura Rose will attend the University of Kentucky, where she plans to major in mathematics. Thank you, Laura Rose, for 9 great years at HLS. Haley Elizabeth Hatcher. Haley also started at HLS in the 4th grade. Haley has always seemed a bit more mature than her age would indicate. Haley is extremely articulate, thoughtful, collected, and very poised. There have certainly been times over the years when the antics of this class and the immaturity of the class may have required a reprimand or two. And you could always see and almost feel the horror that was in Haley's face as being part of a group or being part of something that was not so proper. She would genuinely look sad. She would always apologize, even if she was not part of the issue. Now, I've been chided over the years by the graduates for calling some of the students motherly and things like that. But I know graduates don't like to be called a classroom mom, but Haley has cared for this class like a quiet, patient, tolerant person who upholds a standard of excellence and decorum, which, just by her presence, makes the class better. Haley is a very accomplished scholar and student in her own right. She's always prepared for class and has taken some of the most challenging courses that HLS has to offer. Haley also gives back to her classmates. She has volunteered to help Ms. Bramer this year on Monday with chemistry lab setup, chemistry lab teaching, and even the cleanup. She has served as a teaching assistant for younger students for many years. Haley's always patient, conscientious. She would be a great teacher someday. Haley is also an extremely talented and accomplished pianist. She most recently played for the school during the production of Anne of Green Gables. She brought her own electric keyboard. She attended all technical rehearsals. She was extremely prepared to play her part, almost professional in her manner, because she had very limited rehearsal time or instruction. She just knew what to do. Next year, Haley will attend the University of Louisville, where she plans to major in industrial engineering with a minor in piano. Haley, thank you for 9 great years at HLS. And I'd also like to thank the Hatcher family for entrusting us with Haley and for enrolling her in the 4th grade class so many years ago. Thank you, Haley. Davis Edward Henderson. Davis started at Highlands Latin School in the 3rd grade. In reviewing teacher comments on Davis's report card, words like gifted, brilliant, consistent, and impressive were very common. It would not be a stretch at all for me to say that Davis is well regarded by his teachers and his classmates as being a top scholar. Davis, like his brother Spencer, who graduated in 2015, never seems too affected by the academic rigor or the demands of HLS. Davis is very cool under pressure and rarely, if ever, expresses any academic concerns. One could even go as far to say that Davis appears disinterested or bored at times at HLS. And Davis may even tell you that he is disinterested and bored at times at HLS. But his insights in class and the academic consistency he's provided is far from routine and of the character of someone who is bored. Davis is also a National Merit Commended Scholar and a Kentucky Governor Scholar, 2 very impressive accomplishments. He has many academic accolades which point to and attest that he is an outstanding student. But what I've come to notice about Davis, however, is that he gives an illusion that something is easy or that the material is not that difficult. He makes you think he's above it all. But when friends ask for his help or when younger students need assistance, particularly in math, Davis is always quick to volunteer that assistance. Now, Davis has a dry sense of humor. He will tease you for a silly mistake. He will poke fun at you for not paying attention to the obvious. But Davis will never abandon you if you need help or you don't understand something. On our senior trip to St. Louis, I witnessed just how loyal and tight Davis was with some of his friends. I saw him laughing hysterically at dinner, which is not Davis's normal cool persona. I saw him try to roll down a large lawn in the front of St. Louis Arch while he was attached to Michael LaSalle's back. It was an awkward spectacle, but it is also on video, so I got you. Next year, Davis will attend the honors program at the University of Kentucky, where he plans to double major in computer science and math. I would also like to thank the Henderson family for their years of support at HLS with Davis and Spencer. I'll certainly miss Mr. Henderson, always being the first in line, whether at the Crescent Hill carpool at Birchwood or at Spring Meadows. Congratulations, Davis, and thank you. Jackson Miles Hoffman. Jackson started at HLS in the 7th grade. Now, Jackson's start at HLS was very smooth. Jackson is quite certain that I'm going to tell about his first day at HLS, the opening school ceremony at Spring Meadows campus 6 years ago. What I remember about that day now, and probably forever, was that there once was a scared, little timid boy who was just a little nervous about starting school. There were a few tears, maybe a lot of tears on that first day. But today, 6 years later, I see in front of me a fine, confident young man who looks to care for others. He's ready to take on the world. And if there are any tears today, it will be for a completely different reason. Jackson has always been an active caretaker. This role places him in the middle of stress, conflict, and dilemmas. He's always trying to care for others, and that can be absolutely exhausting. Sometimes the care he tries to provide is not willingly accepted or appreciated, and sometimes Jackson just gets over-involved. He tries too hard. He steps where he should not. But however, I've never believed Jackson is the type of student who always runs towards trouble and conflict. He has a desire to help those in need. He tries to make things better. A perfect example of Jackson throwing himself into the middle of complete chaos is when Jackson took on the leadership role of stage manager, or Miss Bowling's assistant director, for the HLS drama troupe. Now, the stage manager is in charge of everything behind the scenes, from costume changes, set changes, keeping the props in order, making sure the set crew is ready to go, keeping things quiet. He even has to make quick decisions on the fly during a live performance. A lot of people in this role would not be able to handle the stress and the multitudes of different tasks, but Jackson seems to relish in the role. Jackson thrives in chaos at times. It goes unnoticed by the audience, but the drama troupe would not have survived without Jackson behind the scenes. Jackson is a great student as well. Jackson was selected as the prestigious award as a Kentucky Governor Scholar last summer, and I believe attended Northern Kentucky University. Just recently, Jackson informed me that he decided to attend the University of Louisville this fall with an intention of majoring in biochemistry. I also want to thank the Hoffman family for choosing HLS for Jackson and for their faith and trust in HLS, and the 6 years went by way too fast. Thank you, Jackson, for 6 great years at HLS. Congratulations. Hattie Marie Hume. Hattie started at HLS in kindergarten. And it was perhaps in kindergarten, but definitely sometime when Hattie was in primary school, that Hattie told me, and her mom was there with her, that she had just named her new dog Wheatley. I remember saying, "Thank you." And maybe I said, "I hope the dog behaves." But I recently asked Hattie how Wheatley was doing. And she said, "Well, he's gotten really old. He's virtually blind now." And she kept going on with other ailments, which I had to stop her and say, "Just leave the poor dog alone." But Hattie has always been very confident and assertive. She's a very confident person. Hattie will never shy away from telling you what she believes and how things can best be accomplished. Hattie is direct. Sometimes Hattie can be a little bit overconfident too. Like on our senior trip to St. Louis, I listened as Hattie informed everyone about how hungry she was and how she could out-eat everyone at dinner that night. Look how small she is. When her fish and chips arrived at the table, the largest pieces of fried Atlantic cod sat on that plate that I've ever seen. At the end of dinner, Hattie was trying to pass off her food on Bobby and Jackson and anybody else at the table. Everyone reminded Hattie of her boast, and to which Hattie defends herself by saying, "I could have eaten all the food if it was just normal-sized portions." So Hattie was blaming the restaurant for giving her too much food. But in all honesty, Hattie's a great sport. She can handle being teased. She's very tough. And that's the thing about Hattie for the years I've known her. Hattie always goes big. If anything, she is always fully out there. I watched her for years play basketball, and to describe her on the court, and this also goes for the classroom, is to describe someone who gives every minute and plays every minute like it's her last. She gives her heart and soul on the court. She has been injured so many times because she's fearless. She's even reckless when it comes to protecting herself or diving on the ball to help her team. She never backs down. She's probably one of the toughest kids I've met. This year, Hattie was selected by the HLS faculty to be the head of House of Patrick. And as a house leader, Hattie demands a lot, but as usual, Hattie gives a lot. People follow Hattie because she's someone that will never quit on them. Next year, Hattie will attend Union University in Jackson, Tennessee. Hattie plans to major in chemistry. I'd also like to thank the Hume family for all that they have given to HLS over the years, from spearheading the field hockey teams to the never-ending support of the girls' basketball team and Coach Malcolm, to even getting us sandwiches, the administrators and teachers over all the years. Thank you, Humes. Thank you, Hattie, for 13 great years. Michael Jeffrey Gerard LaSalle. Michael started at HLS in kindergarten. Now, if you listen to our opening school speech, you know that it used to be tradition that the primary school students would escort seniors to this very stage on graduation day. Michael was one of those primary students to escort his senior brother, Daniel LaSalle, to the stage. The following years saw Austin LaSalle, William LaSalle, Mary LaSalle all graduate from HLS. And now it's time for Michael to follow in their footsteps. Next year, I believe, is the first time that in my tenure, which is 15 years, that LaSalle has not been enrolled at HLS. Michael will literally give you the shirt off his back. Or, as Ms. Booker pointed out, Michael will carry you on his back if you are injured, as he did for Hattie for much of the trip in Rome. Michael seems to care very little about himself or any personal achievements. He will go out of his way to help anyone. He will stick around in the lunchroom to assist the girls from his house or girls from any house that are cleaning. You rarely, if ever, have to ask Michael to help because he's already doing it. Michael's academic career at HLS has been on a steady incline. There was a time when Michael was in 4th grade that I had to ask his sister Mary to help Michael study for that famous Men of Rome exam. But Mary informed me that Michael is a bit of a free spirit. When Michael decides to study, he'll ace anything. But most of the time, Michael doesn't like to study. But Michael was fine with any of the consequences that came of that. The last couple of years, the faculty have all noticed a much more focused and motivated Michael LaSalle in the classroom. Michael is very intelligent, and when he engages with material that really interests him, he's a stellar. Michael is also very patriotic. He has a strong affinity for planes and military service, which I'm sure he got from his dad and his brother William. Michael shared pictures with me of Thunder over Louisville this year, where he sought out and interviewed and took pictures of all the pilots, parachute jumpers, and any military personnel he could find. Michael is unencumbered when it comes to approaching strangers and befriending them. Michael is truly gifted in conversation. He listens well because he cares for people. He cares what they have to say. Michael's ability to converse with people and to bring a group together led him to be selected as the head of house for St. David. The House of David ties run deep in the LaSalle family, and it was great to see Michael as the head of house this year. Next year, Michael will attend the University of Louisville with his heart set on studying mechanical engineering. I have no doubt that whatever Michael decides to pursue in life, it needs to involve working with people and being part of a team. I'd also like to thank the LaSalle family. It has been our privilege to have worked alongside your children and your family for the past 15 years. Graduating 5 LaSalles at HLS has been a great honor. Thank you, Michael, for your 13 great years at HLS. Caleb James Mast. Caleb started at Highlands Latin School in kindergarten as well. To describe Caleb as quiet would be a bit of an understatement. But every graduating class has a student or two, which allows other students to do most of the talking, and Caleb is happy to let everyone in class do most of the talking. Now, every class has drama and issues from time to time, and Caleb is very smart. He stays uninvolved with that aspect of school. He acts like he doesn't know what's going on, but I think he does know. He just pretends not to. There have been times, even recently, when we've tried to get Caleb to be a bit more assertive and talkative. A few months back, his mom, Miss Mass, approached me to inform me that Caleb would be coming to see me to talk to me about something. Then she started to tell me what that something was, but she stopped and said, "No, I'm going to let Caleb tell you what this is." So I figured that Caleb might be asking me to write him a college recommendation, and that asking a teacher or an administrator to do this can be somewhat intimidating at times. And Caleb is a man of few words. So I was outside of Cook Hall one morning, and I could sense that Caleb wanted to say more than just his typical, "Good morning, Mr. Wheatley." So I braced myself for this conversation with Caleb. And Caleb walked up and said, "Good morning, Mr. Wheatley." And I said, "Good morning, Caleb." He said, "Will you write me a recommendation?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Thank you." But to see Caleb in classes in the hallway is not the same Caleb that you may see like on the basketball court or at basketball camps. Caleb plays basketball with a ton of passion, energy, and enthusiasm. I really catch myself laughing when I see Caleb demonstratively appeal a referee for a foul. It's so unlike Caleb to see him argue or show displeasure, but he does so in front of all these people in the basketball games. It is clear that Caleb has a very intense competitive streak. Coach Snell relied heavily on Caleb this year for rebounding, for scoring, and just to play a lot of minutes. This past season, Caleb was a vocal leader on the court. He was quick to help teammates off the floor, to praise them for good play, and to encourage younger teammates when they made a mistake. I've seen firsthand during summer basketball camps how Caleb is so good working and coaching younger players. They respond well to Caleb's laid-back attitude, but also the very competitive streak that he has in the 3rd through 6th grade basketball camps. Players love to be on Caleb's team. Next year, Caleb will attend the University of Louisville. Caleb is undecided at this time on his major, but thank you, Caleb, for 13 great years at HLS. We will miss you. Rachel Lynn McGraw. Rachel started at HLS in the 1st grade, and then she took a few years off and returned to HLS in the 5th grade. I think she's our first primary student to take a few gap years there. But no, in all seriousness, Rachel is one of the most academically driven, focused students that HLS has seen in a long while. Rachel is always planning, she's always organizing, she's always looking at a big picture. Rachel finds purpose and meaning in the things that she does, and Rachel is extremely efficient. If she's unable to figure out why she is doing something, she asks specific questions, good questions. She's not afraid to seek clarification, and most of the time, Rachel can even offer alternative solutions, better plans to accomplish goals and objectives placed before her. Rachel is also one of those HLS students who seems to just be involved in just about everything at school. She's active in the House of Patrick. She served as a house tenant this year, assisting Hattie with numerous projects like the movie project and various other social projects. Rachel is also a very good athlete. She has played both varsity volleyball and basketball at HLS over the years. You can easily see when watching Rachel, particularly on the basketball court, how she is a kind of a coach on the floor. She does a lot of the things on the team that kind of goes unnoticed. She plays great defense, she blocks out, she gets rebounds. She makes the team better by always being in the right place at the right time. Rachel and the entire McGraw family have been instrumental in service projects for the House of Patrick over the years. Service at the Franciscan Soup Kitchen used to be a McGraw family thing, and then it became a House of Patrick family thing. And because of their success, it has become an HLS house system thing that we do as a whole school. Rachel is extremely service-oriented, and her passion has resulted in many students experiencing the benefits of joy and service at HLS, particularly at the Franciscan Soup Kitchen. All of this would be more than enough to just describe Rachel, but Rachel is also a very talented scholar. She is a National Merit Commended Scholar. Sometimes Rachel's academic profile goes under the radar when you see all the other things that Rachel does. Rachel is an example of how hard work, dedication, a commitment to a plan really does pay off. She charts a path, she sticks to it, and she always succeeds. Rachel will attend the University of Louisville next year. where she plans to either major in pre-law or pre-med. Clearly, Rachel hasn't figured this one out yet, but I would not be surprised if Rachel becomes a doctor and a lawyer. Thank you, Rachel, for somewhere between 8 to 12 years of great service at HLS. You will be missed. Willow Kate Noltemeyer started at HLS in kindergarten. Now, Willow is very quiet. She's unassuming at times, and she's also perfectly quiet to allow the spotlight to shine bright on others. When Willow started in the upper school, I know her parents and I were a bit worried about the workload and stress. Willow would exhaustively prepare for exams and assessments, always studying, overstudying. Willow seemed as if she could never quite be prepared enough for school. I remember talking to Willow in 8th grade, and my takeaway from that conversation was very insightful. I learned that I think Willow just wanted to be prepared. Willow had internalized the desire and a need to be prepared for school every day. This is rare for most adults, and certainly very uncommon for most 8th graders. At HLS, the academic workload can be significant, but it's doable. Willow saw that her studies not necessarily as a chore, a labor, or a task, but as a challenge, something that she wanted to conquer. I realized then that Willow was simply figuring out what she needed to do to be successful. Willow would never accept mediocrity. She was all in for HLS. She wanted to be a good student. She's always been a great student. The past few years, I've definitely seen Willow coming more out of her shell. She's more confident, she's more talkative, she's a much more assertive person than she was in 7th and 8th grade. Willow's strive for excellence was never personal. She was always working to become a better person so that she could serve people better. This past summer, Willow spent time in the Dominican Republic serving a community by repairing houses, serving meals at churches, and just playing with younger children, and she plans to continue that ministry someday. I've also heard stories of Willow working at Steel City Pops or at Quills, moving quickly from learning as an employee to essentially training other people. I think that people in charge see Willow now a little bit like we did back then, as someone that has very high standards, someone that you can trust, someone who will always strive for excellence. And Willow has always been excellent. Next year, Willow will attend Wheaton College, just outside of Chicago. She's undecided on her major at this time, but I want to thank you, Willow, for 13 great years at HLS. James Nathaniel Riley. James started at HLS in the 9th grade. This makes James the newbie of the group. I recall when James shadowed for a day, I believe in 8th grade, at Crescent Hill campus, and seeing James at lunch, he had a smile on his face. But when I asked him how it was going, he did not seem thoroughly excited. I was maybe a little overwhelmed. I remember asking Mr. Riley later on if James was happy, and he said that James had a great day. So James is also one of those quiet types, but he always does have that smile on his face. There it is. There it is. But James is always smiling like he knows something that you don't know, and that concerns you from time to time. I learned something very strange about James on that trip to St. Louis, that James is by far the most photographed person in HLS history. Every one of these seniors took pictures of James at the mall, James at the zoo, James at the arch, James at the baseball game, James with a hat on, James with glasses on. I think the whole trip was really a discussion as to who got the best picture of James. I looked at these pictures, and I saw what the students obviously saw too, that James really never takes a bad picture. He is extremely photogenic. But in all seriousness, James has stepped into a class of students, many of which have been here since kindergarten, and has made a real impact. James is very smart. He's always prepared for class and contributes positively to the academic environment. James always seems to be cheerful. Yes, he's smiling. And James has a great laid-back attitude, which complements this class. James is also an outstanding soccer player. He's played on the varsity team for the last 4 years. He is perhaps one of the fastest players in the KCAA league that I've ever seen. He has scored over 50 goals in his HLS career, far surpassing any other player. Now, on the field, James is constantly hustling, moving, but he's not smiling. He's competitive, and James has a nice mean streak in him, which really helps our younger team. We had a very young team this year, lots of 7th and 8th graders. James was a leader on the field and someone who would stick up for our younger players if they were getting pushed around a little bit. I appreciated seeing that. Next year, James plans to attend the University of Louisville Speed School, where James plans to major in computer science. I'd also like to thank the Riley family for choosing HLS High School for James. Now, while James may be the only new freshman in this class of 21, next year we will enroll 7 new freshmen in a class of 50. So thank you, James, for 4 great years at HLS. Joseph Linder Ryan. Joseph has been taking classes at HLS since the 4th grade. Joseph and the Ryan family is one of Mrs. Lowe's original homeschooled families. Joseph's siblings, Sam, Olivia, Elizabeth, and Emma, have all graduated from HLS at some point over the last 10 to 12 years. The Ryan children have taken classes at HLS ranging from Latin to math to English and classical studies. The Ryan family has been extremely loyal to Mrs. Lowe and the vision of HLS over the years. It has been our honor to recognize their early commitment to something that wasn't popular at the time, a classical Christian education, and to hand James Ryan a homeschool diploma today. Joseph. Joseph Ryan, aside from taking Latin with us this year, has also been an avid runner on Mr. Walrad's HLS championship cross-country team. Joseph has been running cross-country with HLS since the 6th grade. Mr. Walrad joked, but I could tell that he was actually serious, that he wants Joseph to return next year as his assistant coach on the varsity team. Next year, Joseph will attend the University of Louisville, where he'll major in computer science. I want to thank Joseph for being part of this HLS graduation ceremony today, and to also thank Mr. and Mrs. Ryan and all of their children for their long-standing and unwavering support of Latin, and particularly of Highlands Latin School. Congratulations, Joseph. Peter James Schwab. Peter started HLS in kindergarten. Now, Peter really, at his essence, is a person who likes to please others. Peter's a team player. If the academic or athletic standard is set very high, Peter will strive to reach it, and he often does. When Peter sees others struggling to reach a standard, When Peter sees others struggling to reach a standard, or see others struggling with the criticism from a teacher or from a coach, Peter steps in and serves as a confidence builder. I've seen this. Peter is extremely empathetic. It pains him to see others in distress. I've been around sports teams my entire life, and watching how students and athletes respond to the demands that are placed on them, to the criticism sometimes, tells you a lot about a person. Sometimes a player or a student will build their reputation with a class or a teammate by commiserating or bemoaning the unfair treatment or reprimand by a teacher or a coach. But this is not Peter. Peter never throws the teacher or the coach under the bus in order to elevate his own status. Rather, he encourages and supports his teammates to meet that standard. Peter wants everyone to get along and to function well as a complete unit. And this includes following instructions and leadership of those that are above him. Over the years, Peter has played a significant role on the HLS basketball team. He is an outstanding three-point shooter. And when Peter gets hot, there is not a shot on the floor that Peter can't hit. And Peter takes every shot on the floor whenever he can. That's okay. I greatly enjoyed watching Peter play basketball because he does so with great passion and energy. Peter loves to win, but I think Peter just loves to play the game with his friends. He always looks like he's having so much fun. Peter is also an extremely hard worker. Peter once told me that he gladly works 40 to 50 hours per week in the summer at Kentucky Kingdom. I'm sure he's a great employee. I'm sure he makes the families and children who come to the amusement park happy. Peter is a pleaser. Lastly, Peter is also an outstanding scholar. Peter is so laid back, so into basketball and working, it's easy to overlook how intelligent Peter really is in the classroom. In a class of truly great scholars, Peter holds his own quite well. There just does not seem to be a lot of things that Peter does not excel in. Next year, Peter will attend the University of Louisville. Peter is yet undecided on his major at this time, but I want to thank you, Peter, for 13 great years at HLS. Faith Elizabeth Thibodeau. Faith started at HLS in the second grade. A teacher commented perfectly about Faith when it read, "Faith is a dream student." Now, teaching is difficult. Teachers prepare for class. They have insecurities about their lessons, their abilities. Sometimes classes do not respond well to the teaching, and a teacher can sometimes feel alone in front of the class. But Faith is the type of student who makes a difficult job at times the greatest job in the world. Faith really is a dream student for any teacher. When I took over stats for those 2 weeks after Christmas, I had a lot of preparing to do. Dr. Bendara, Dr. Sewer, and Mr. Hernandez helped me greatly, but I was still nervous about doing a good job. The first lesson I taught, I relaxed as soon as I saw Faith's smile. I worked a problem on the board, and I looked to Faith to ensure that I had provided a good enough instruction. Her simple assurance made a new, inexperienced teacher feel confident. Faith has the ability to simply uplift the people around her because of her character and because of her integrity. You don't want to mess up around Faith. And it's not because she's going to ridicule or tease you, but it's because you desire to impress her. You want to be the best in her presence because she's always her best in yours. Faith is also completely down to earth. She's easy to talk to. She's friends with everyone. And also learned a few years ago, I hope she remembers, but when I did show up at the girls' retreat, how super competitive Faith is about winning. We were playing a friendly game of ultimate frisbee, or maybe it was mud ball, at Camp Kavanaugh. I think I scored a touchdown. I may have done a little bit too much showboating and bragging about my touchdown. And the next thing I know, Faith is guarding me. She's pushing me. And she whispers, "You're not going to score again." At first I laughed, but I'm pretty competitive too. And then I realized I'm not going to score again. Faith is a fine athlete. She's a great volleyball player. She's an avid runner. Watching her play volleyball, she's got great defensive skills. She's a wonderful setter of the ball. She's outstanding. It's a bit different watching Faith play sports because I can see that type of intensity in her, and I know that she wants to win, but she's so proper about how it goes about it. She's not going to win at all costs, but she's very competitive. Faith was selected to the prestigious Kentucky Governor Scholar Program and spent 6 weeks, I believe, at Morehead College this summer. Next year, Faith will attend the University of Kentucky, where she plans to major in English or history. Thank you, Faith, for 11 great years at HLS. Robert Noah Walker. Noah started at HLS in kindergarten. The first words that come to mind when I think of Noah are humility and consistency. At the boys' retreat in April, I observed Noah playing basketball, throwing the frisbee, just hanging out with the guys. He seemed so happy, so carefree. Noah's always been that guy, willing to talk to you at any time. Noah never seems to get upset or angry. He always gives credit to others for any personal successes that he earns. I went over to talk to Noah during the retreat, I believe it was after the campfire, and we had a little talk and we walked down memory lane of HLS. We talked about all of his old teachers. We discussed things that we used to do at HLS when it was smaller. We laughed at the stories. I remember feeling a little sad, perhaps a little angry with myself after that conversation. I was sad because I'd never spoken to Noah at such length and at such ease in the 13 years that I've known him. I felt like I sort of missed out on a great young man. I wish I had more time. At school, Noah is far from invisible. You can always find Noah. He'll be the first to tell you that he's worked very hard at school. He's been able to maintain a perfect 4.0 average. Noah's teacher stated on a report card that Noah is a great example of what diligence can accomplish. He grew in his understanding and abilities. He is one of my best students. Noah is also an outstanding basketball player. He's played point guard on our team for many years, and Noah, as you can expect, is cool under pressure. He makes great decisions on the court. He's a quiet leader, but the team looks to him when the game is on the line. Noah would be a great basketball coach someday, and I would love Noah to return to HLS to coach. But in Noah's spare time, which is very limited, he is interned with a local doctor who specializes in stem cell research, and Noah has a passion for science, specifically for biology. Next year, Noah plans to attend Lipscomb University in Nashville, Tennessee, where he intends to major in biology with the intentions of going off to medical school. So I don't think I'm going to get him to coach anytime real soon. I'd also like to thank the Walker family for their 13 years of loyalty to HLS, for their tireless efforts to see the HLS basketball program off the ground, and for their trust and support in us. Thank you. And thank you, Noah, for 13 great years. William Xavier Yates started at HLS in the 5th grade. The first recollection I have of William starting at HLS is when Miss Booker called me about a new student. It seemed that there were some things that William really enjoyed about school at HLS, and there were some things that William did not like a whole lot either. Mrs. Booker and all of her teachers were hard at work on William early on in certain academic areas. William was so far beyond what one may consider of a superior intellect. He was a very intriguing student. There were some days you actually wanted William to stand up and teach the class, and there are other days that William just seemed to struggle. Our goal with William was to simply do our best to ensure that he had consistency in his day, care and love for Mrs. Booker and his teachers, and a standard for which he was held. Over time, and it didn't take long, William began to trust HLS a little more, and his bad days became a thing of the past. William found his footing and excelled as a student and as a young man, particularly over these last 2 years. I find William's honesty and his sarcasm to be a great strength. William will let you know where you stand. He does not sugarcoat any failures with platitudes or any roses. He tells you if you failed, and he tells you that you need to do better. William will also give credit when credit is due. Even when William is wrong, and it pains William to be wrong at times, he will admit it, and he heaps praises on those who have succeeded. There are students who seem to always appear to be thinking, almost like a chess player who's 7 to 8 mental moves ahead of their opponent. Sometimes I see William in this deep thought. I've come to notice that you don't interfere with William when he's in this deep thought. He's working something out, he's thinking about it, but he will get back to you when he has the problem solved. William and his grandfather have been consistently helpful with the Science Olympiad program for many years now. Whether or not William won or was bested by others in this competition, it was always great to see William in this environment. He was so happy. William would marvel at the success and inventions of the other teams, and sometimes, not so politely, would make fun of a design that was doomed to fail. But next year, William will attend the University of Kentucky, where he plans to major in civil engineering. I'd also like to thank William's family for always trusting in us, for all of your help and support. William is a fine young man, and it's an honor for him to graduate from HLS today. And thank you, William, for 8 great years at HLS. Carl David Yoder started at Highlands Latin School in kindergarten. Carl really breezed through much of HLS primary and grammar school. I recall a few years ago a conversation I had with the Yoders about Carl's older sister, Laura, transferring to another school. I hated losing Laura, but it seemed like a well-conceived plan on the Yoders' part, and I wished Laura well. But I also remember asking, what about Carl? And they said, oh no, Carl's not leaving. HLS is perfect for Carl. I have to admit that I did not think much, worry much about Carl at all during primary school. School just seemed easy to Carl. Then in December of 2017, we were all informed of Carl's diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. Carl was enrolled in our most challenging courses as a junior, but now he was faced with a life and death diagnosis, which would require intensive amounts of treatment. School no longer mattered, so I thought. Carl wanted to remain as participatory in HLS as possible. Mr. Lowe rigged a camera and a mobile robot that Michael LaSalle took personal pride and almost obsessiveness in streaming these classes for Carl back at home. I'm not sure if it was ever really that successful, because Carl was extremely sick and he was not able to return to HLS at all his junior year. Prior to the start of his senior year, Carl was not able to re-enroll either. But with his parents' support and armed with an academic record, which was only 2.5 years long, his involvement with a robotics team, extremely high ACT scores, and a recognition that Carl had just been recently named a National Merit Commended Scholar, Carl gained easy admission to the University of Louisville. It is true that if you are a scholar of Carl's magnitude and have demonstrated an ability to succeed and persevere despite all odds, a college does not and should not wait for a high school diploma. But Carl remained committed to graduating from HLS. In November of this year, his senior year, Carl returned to take some classes at HLS. We said that any classes that Carl wanted to attend was fine with us. We were just glad to have Carl healthy and back at school. Returning to HLS was a remarkable achievement, and Carl had nothing to prove. But being back to school, something that came so easily to him before, seemed like a reward to Carl. Carl is also a very, very unique person. I really enjoy talking with Carl. He's extremely gifted in math and science, as we all know, but he likes obscure bands. He wears these cool retro t-shirts when we're not in dress code. Carl just seems like a college student to me already. He seems like he's been through it all. He's wise beyond his years, and he's just a fun guy to be around. I'd like to thank the Yoder family for their years of trust, their support, and their faith in HLS. I also appreciate you working with us on Carl's behalf. He's a remarkable young man with an amazing family. Next year, Carl will attend the University of Louisville. I believe Carl plans to major in computer science. Thank you, Carl, for 13 great years at HLS. You are truly an amazing young man. Thank you.
At this time, our graduates will officially walk and come forward to receive their diplomas. Ryan Allen Apperson. Grace Holbrook Burnett. Catherine Marie Burnett. Robert Murphy Williamson Fowler. Danielle Jeanette Fuller. Laura Rose Giltner. Haley Elizabeth Hatcher. Davis Edward Henderson. Jackson Miles Hoffman. Hattie Marie Hume. Michael Jeffrey Gerard LaSalle. Caleb James Mast. Rachel Lynn McGraw. Willow Kate Noltemeyer. James Nathaniel Riley. Joseph Linder Ryan. Peter James Schwab. Faith Elizabeth Thibodeau. Robert Noah Walker. William Xavier Yates. Carl David Yoder.
Not for tongues of heaven's angels, not for wisdom to discern, not for faith that masters mountains, for this better gift we yearn.
Love is humble, love is gentle, love is tender, true and kind. Love is gracious, ever patient, generous of heart and mind. May love be yours, Lord, may love be yours, may love be yours, Never jealous, never selfish, love does not rejoice in wrong. Never boastful or resentful, love believes and suffers wrong. May love be yours, Lord, may love be yours, may love be yours,
Please stand for the benediction. As you go, remember, by the goodness of God, you were brought into this world. By the grace of God, you have been kept until this very moment. and by the love of God, fully revealed in the face of Jesus, you are being redeemed. May God bless you every moment of your life, and may you use your God-given talents and gifts to bring love and grace to the world. May God take your lips and speak through them. May God take your life and love through it. May God take your heart and bring peace and joy to the world. In the name of Jesus, we pray and say all together, Amen.
You may be seated. I want to thank you for being part of this very special day and for sharing it with us and the graduates on stage here. In just a second, I'm going to introduce the class of 2019 as a whole. They'll come forward. They know where to go and for pictures and stuff, so you'll feel free to move around to get some pictures if you like. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you the 2019 Highlands Latin School graduating class.